What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented by Pure Options Precision Crafted Cannabis. If you care about quality with your cannabis, if you want to feel good, if you want to get through Michigan State basketball games, officiating with Zach Edey, or if you want to get through a drive home after a bumpy plane ride like I just experienced on the way back from Minneapolis, Pure Options is here for you. Go to pureoptions.com. Check out the location nearest you. And a reminder, if you spend $50 at Pure Options and you let them know that Couch of the Rube sent you, you get an eighth of ProGrow, a terrific in-house brand, and Pure Options will take care of you. Also, our Saturday afternoon show presented by our friends at Firekeepers and the Firekeepers iCasino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Bet the games we're betting. Bet the NCAA tournament. Get in on all this stuff now. It's a fun time of year to dabble in sports betting, and Firekeepers is here for you with their app or in person at just off I-94 in Battle Creek at Dacey's Tap Room and Sportsbook. Jason, how you doing, brother?
I'm with Zach back in the game. What can you guys do differently?
Well, we might start doubling now, but I don't like the way it's been called. How's that?
Yeah, Tom. What's up, buddy? So you had some turbulence, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Was it bad?
It's not great.
Does it make you think, like, it could possibly end here? Or are you so, like, such a veteran traveler that it doesn't even bother you?
I've had a few turbulence moments on airplanes where I thought, this could be it. I'll never fly again. Just let me land. This was not one of those, but it was enough to, I had to work on a column today.
So that was the reason.
And, your stomach's feeling uneasy now, and, it was just not great. It was not ideal.
So you have to look at the stewardess's, like, the flight attendant's face and see how they're reacting. That's
Correct.
how I usually do it. I'm panicky Pete because my mind always goes to worst case scenario, usually because I have like 30 mgs running through my veins, so because I'm just scared to die sober. But,
if you're going to die, Pure Options is the way to die.
Or if you're going to watch Michigan State basketball, or if you're going to watch Zach Edey get officiated by Big Ten refs.
Yeah.
Like they're doing today. Fuck Purdue. I'm so sick of Edey. Does Edey think he's some sort of enforcer badass or something?
You know what stood out to me yesterday?
He's doing it right now against Wisconsin, too.
Well, he doesn't foul much, but sometimes to the detriment of his team. Like, he lets you get layups. He lets you dunk. And late in the game, when he only had one foul, Michigan State got a couple easy buckets because he just let people through. And I get that with 11 minutes to go if you're Zach Edey and you're that important to your team. With 2 minutes to go and you got one foul, step up and foul somebody, dude. Like, I found that to be amazing.
A shot. With your reach, you're 11 feet, 12 feet tall. Like, what could hurt if you just put your hand up, though?
Get in there. Yeah, well,
It's kind of a weird strategy. Because they don't call many fouls on Edey as he barrels down in the post down there and sits there for 9 seconds and gets away with murder with his elbows. But, like, I don't mind. I get it. Edey is a monstrosity. He's
very
big.
good.
He's a pain in the ass. Does he have to get ticky-tack calls as well? Like, regardless of playing Michigan State, I mean, does he get that many ticky-tack fouls? I know that he started with 2 early ones in the Wisconsin game right now, but it's just so frustrating. It's like, how are you supposed to guard these guys when, like, Sissoko, I mean, they're big people, and they're just trying to hang on to Edey, and you can't even kind of wrestle him in the post. It just reminds me of kind of like Shaq back in the day where he could get away with a lot of stuff down there.
It amazes me that more people don't try to, I don't want to say pull the chair out from under him, but more people don't, like, just try to establish position, and as soon as he displaces you, have your feet planted and just have your cranium hit the floor hard. Like, knock yourself unconscious. I would like to, if I were, I mean, obviously at 6'2", it would be really ineffective if somebody like me tried to guard him, but I would love to be a little bit taller and just try that, because I just don't think enough people do that. Too many people lean into him. Just make the officials make a call. And if he dunks on you once or twice, I think the way people guard Zach Edey is pretty much all wrong. Because what he does is only worth 2 points. And, yeah, he may get 30, 35, but when you double him and you give up a 3, or, the level of acting and flopping and just crying bloody murder I would do if I was guarding him. I would make it a real pain on him. And also, I learned this covering JUCO basketball years ago, and I don't see it in Big Ten hoops. Maybe it's because these games are televised. But, I was taught when you're guarding the post against somebody you can't deal with, there's a thing. You take your hand in a straight motion, not a fist, but like a straight, and you jab somebody in the kidney, and it's really effective defense. The refs usually don't see it. And
not Zach Edey. It doesn't affect him. He's a robot.
Yeah,
you throw a basketball at his ball sack. It doesn't even affect him.
Must be it.
Does that guy really need to be at the free throw line 14 times though? I mean, come on.
He's really good though.
You can't have any leeway though when you're trying to guard him straight up.
He's really good. I mean, that's the thing.
I don't think so.
He's
I really
better
don't.
than you think.
I can't wait to see him get dunked on constantly in the NBA.
He's going to be good in the NBA.
I don't think so.
He's going to be okay.
He's ass. I hate him.
It's frustrating to watch how, I mean, the game yesterday wasn't defended all that poorly because of, or it wasn't called all that poorly because of Edey. There were a couple moments, obviously, a couple times where you just watch his elbow go into Matty Sissoko's face and, like, how is that not something? But also, there were the other calls, it was the charges, it was those sort of things that swayed it that I think were problematic. And we'll get into those in our Groovy Donut
and Michigan State
questions.
didn't hit shots. I mean, they can't blame refs all day long. Refs are ass, but I mean, Michigan State had a lot of quality looks that they missed. So,
yep.
You just don't want to blame it on the refs, but it's just interesting, Zach Edey, watching him. Like, how are you supposed to have a fighting chance against this guy? But
I saw even some Purdue fans on social media were like, yeah, that was
wait, level-headed fans?
I think they know at this point.
Have to be bots, right?
They know at this point that they get away with some stuff on that. The question is, what happens in the NCAA tournament with Purdue? How are their games officiated? How is Zach Edey officiated? I think that will be really really interesting to see. But it is good to be back in a state with pure options and have the in-laws over tonight before an MSU hockey. If I didn't have to cover MSU hockey tonight, I would be
stoned to the gills.
Yeah, no doubt. I just don't want to.
Like my in-laws, I really like being around them, but it does help having some pure options running through my veins just to make sure that myself, I'm just a level person.
I don't want to even put this on my in-laws. It's not just them. It's like
somewhat them though.
But it's my own mother too who's going to be there, and then it's my my wife's aunt and some friends. It's going to be a big crew of 70-somethings.
You have to tell the neighbors before this party that's going down.
I mean,
hey, I was going on until about 8 p.m. Guys.
I was supposed to be in Minnesota, and
damn you, Michigan State.
Well, but so the question: as soon as they lost, I made sure I had a credential to the MSU hockey game. So I had a way to get out of there. If they're listening to this, I apologize, and hopefully they aren't. They're probably all gathered around right now, excited to listen to Graham's podcast, and here I am shitting on people. I love these people. They're some of my favorite people in the world.
I can't wait to get so high and hang out with them later.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you ready to dig into these Groovy Donuts questions?
Why not, my friend? Eric Schultz up first, of course. MSU is 2-6 in games decided by 5 points or less this season. How much? Jeez, excuse me.
You okay?
How much is a part of their identity? Should a 1 seed really be that concerned if they have to play a 14-loss team without a center who can't win close games?
Yes. Relative to other teams in their position. And Eric, this is what I mean by it. Like, and obviously, if they were a great team, if they wouldn't be in this spot where they were an 8 or 9 seed. But there are sort of two types of 8, 9, or 10 seeds or whatever they are. There's the type that sort of maximizes everything they are. They're gritty, they're plucky. They're never going to win a road game against a great team. That team's going to blow them out a lot of the time. And then there's the team that sort of seems to underachieve and once in a while is fantastic, even if even if they don't always close games, but they're in these games and they're dangerous late. Michigan State's a pain in the ass, 8 or 9 seed, and relative to other 8 or 9 seeds. If Michigan State was a 4 seed, I'd say, yeah, you don't worry about them relative to other 4 seeds. They're better 4 seeds, more consistent 4 seeds with as much talent. But Michigan State, relative to some of the firepower they have in a given moment and some of what they showed this week, I think is a more dangerous lower seed than a lot of other seeds in a similar spot like them.
Next one from Eric. Haven't we had they're starting to play better ball conversation like 4 separate times this year? Any sort of run will be more due to the matchup, not how MSU's play.
I think it's both, but yeah, this is a total matchup dependent team, and we have had that conversation several times. Feels
like more than 4.
Yeah, this to me is other than the game against Baylor, this is as good as they played, like, back-to-back games, I guess second half of Minnesota and the way they played Purdue.
How about Madi Sissoko, though? I mean, that's the Madi we want to see, even if it's for 10 minutes. Like, why not?
But where's
that guy?
Where has he been?
I don't know.
And you know,
fighting for rebounds.
That's who he's got to be. Like, when you play 10, 12 minutes, come in and just play your ass off. Go be Dennis Rodman out there.
But Izzo talks about watching tape. Do you watch tape of that with Madi and be like, hey, man, where's this shit? What are we doing?
Well, and if I'm Michigan State, I don't reward Madi by play. Because part of the problem with Sissoko is he'll have a game like that, and then Michigan State starts him or plays him too much, and he goes back to being Madi. Madi responded to being benched, to relegated to not just being benched, but completely out of the rotation pretty much. And he responded with a great game for him. And you got to keep making him respond. He is still, because to me, Zach Edey and the foul trouble sort of creates a different environment and a different approach with the big men than other matchups. But Michigan State, part of why I think they have, I don't want turned a corner, I'm never going to say with this team, but part of why I think they look better and there is a little bit of hope is the three big rotation that doesn't include him, that includes the other guys, just works. It's much more Jackson Kohler. It's Kohler and Booker together a lot. It's Cooper is the primary big who doesn't have a lot of offense to his game, but is taller and I think just better than Sissoko. And so that still needs to be the thing. Now, if due to foul trouble or opportunity or other guys struggling, Sissoko gets another chance, he's got to keep looking like that guy. He's got to keep responding for sure.
Next one from Eric. Dominic next. You're already doing it. You're subtly planting that seed again. You've gone from Izzo understands he screwed up to it's possible he doesn't use the portal if Booker takes a leap, and Madi probably won't be back, but he could. Graham, fucking couch. My question is this. Are you part of some David Harns, Duffy Carpenter, underground Jim Jones ass, protect Izzo at all cost QAnon cult? Saying you wonder what actually was promised to Booker with the implication that it excuses Tom's portal pouting. Oh, and we're randomly trying to have Rick Carter on? Rick Carter would commit capital murder if someone sneezed within 200 feet of Tom. Don't tease around it, couch. If he's going to sit around all summer again and use his fat and sassy shoulder pad BS, just fucking tell me now. Or at least have Rexroad on and tell us what Windhorse did.
Well done, Dominic. I think my opinion may have evolved somewhat, but I think I've been pretty consistent with it. I mean, I was early on.
But the Madi thing, I was like, really? I probably won't be back. I mean, was there like a 5% chance? Or?
I think I would not be surprised if Madi wants to come back. The question is how they handle that conversation. You know, that's the question.
Right.
And so I don't know. I just give you my opinion. It's not always what you want to hear, and I think it's been pretty consistent in some regards. They obviously screwed up by not going to get a big man, but I also understood where they were last summer because I was more in that camp than I quickly, than I became this year when you watched it play out. They miscalculated, and that's sort of what I said. I miscalculated. I thought Carson Cooper was going to take a step that he didn't. He has to some degree, but not to the degree I thought he would right away. I didn't have a whole lot of faith in Sissoko. I didn't know Jackson Kohler was going to get hurt. That would have been intriguing. And then I didn't realize how not ready Xavier Booker was. And so, yeah, that's on me. But I don't know that you can risk it again. It's going to be a fascinating offseason. It's one of the bigger offseasons in his tenure. And I've said before, I think they need to go get a rugged rebounding type that can play both positions. But, I can't make them do that. And it'll be interesting to see if everybody comes back, who comes back, and how it all looks. I apologize for frustrating you.
And we said, would somebody please guard somebody?
There's no QAnon cult, by the way.
Dominic, Graham, are you aware in the last 2 weeks you've taken sides with someone who called me dumber than a pile of pig shit and Daddy Coco and his sensitive Twitter name searching? I hope both of them enjoy my stolen 2019 Halo Sport gift card.
Yeah, I set that out to the Kohler family just for you, Dominic. By the way, if you went after one of my children, my illegitimate children, Dominic, I would call you dumber than a pile of pig shit too. That's a parent stepping up, right?
But why are you on Twitter though? Would you be on Twitter searching your name?
I don't know if he's searching the name or if he just listens to the podcast. Might just listen to the show. Might be part of this community. Dominic might have gone after somebody in our own Couch in the Rube community here. And that could have been what.
At least it was funny.
That could have been what happens. Like, Dominic, you have a wonderful dog. Like, think if somebody, that's the closest, I don't think Dominic's a father otherwise. If somebody went after your dog with the verbiage you used towards Jackson Kohler, would you not call them dumber than a pile of pig shit? I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, because you're ripping on a dog. They can't do anything about it. They can't speak.
What?
Can't fight back with its paws.
You know who else can't speak? A Michigan State basketball player can't get on Twitter and fight back because they're going to look like a jackass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably why you ignore it, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe. I listened to the player interview after game 1 the other night. Does Trey have a stutter or just nerves?
Yeah, he does have a starter. I wrote about this in the piece I did on him when he first went back to Minnesota.
Thanks for reading, maybe.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yes, he does have a little bit of a stutter. It was something he dealt with, especially as a child. But still, you see, the thing about it, he's willing to talk about it. It's not something that it's not something that really makes him nervous. Now, I don't think he's been in a lot of big public speaking situations yet, and as a college basketball player. But it's something he
makes him more likable.
Yeah,
you see that. It's tough to deal with. I can't imagine.
Yeah, and he's
stutter and stammer through these fucking questions, and got all those people staring at you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have
pointed at you.
I don't even have a stutter. It just sounds like it when I try and spit out a question. He does well. Yes.
All right. Maybe. What would it take to make you skip watching March Madness?
If at any point the underdog component is taken out.
If the NFL season started in March, what else are we supposed to do here?
No, to me, if it becomes just high majors, more and more high majors, less and less mid majors, and it just becomes this. I don't want to watch middling high majors play each other in the first round. I want to see very good to great mid majors be a part of that. And if they're not, that takes away some of the charm and the fun of the tournament, and I'd watch less of it.
Chris Fletcher next. Are we assuming the Spartans are safely in the field? We thought the 2021 team was safe, and they wound up in the first 4 for TV ratings, if we're being honest. Who's to say they won't do this? Get the same treatment this year? And from Tyson's Fury, why is everyone so comfortable with saying MSU is safely in the NCAA tournament? There are too many bubble teams playing well and bid stealers left.
Not enough to bump MSU out. There's enough to take some from, Indiana State's in trouble, those sort of teams, which I think is too bad. But when you look at the net rank, give me some Hoff real quick. Okay. MSU is 25 in the net. They're not going to fall. I mean, that's where they're going to be. That's 8 spots higher than anybody who's ever missed the NCAA tournament. There's just no way. And they don't want the net to become irrelevant because that's what happens. If you finish 25th in the net that the committee uses more than any other tool, even though they sometimes say they use a lot of tools, then the net ceases to be a functional thing that's used in future years. If the top 25 team in the net can get left out, and Michigan State just has some things on their resume that some other teams don't, and frankly, they looked like an NCAA tournament team this weekend.
Joshy next. How bad was Booker really early in the season? Izzo keeps saying that the media has been at practices, so you guys know, but you're telling me he couldn't have played like 3 to 4 minutes a game?
But I think people saw him in December. You remember that game in December where he just looked completely out of place, and even in January, he played some and didn't look like he belonged on the floor at a certain point this year. And then in practice, you would see it. Yeah, I mean, it took. I mean, obviously he has a great deal of skill, and so depending on the drill, he looks like he absolutely belongs. But yeah, no, he was. What you saw in the games was a little of what you see in practice, and it was a question of motor to a degree I think they didn't realize, and figuring out what it took to compete at that level with guys who are older than you and more physical and more ready and just sort of understand the intensity.
Joshy, can we get Elizabeth's full review of Manscaped?
Chuck this up to things that'll never happen.
Why not?
I appreciate Manscaped. I'm just, how often do we have Elizabeth on the show, period? Like, that's the first thing we're going to have her on for? A review of Manscaped?
That's what makes this show great.
Would you bring Teresa on for a review of Manscaped?
Absolutely.
You would?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll do that then.
Like in studio?
Well, not just,
Just
have her
record her version?
Yeah, have her record her thoughts of your
Sure.
time. Okay. Well, we'll do that.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not scared of anything. Some dude next. Graham, please comment on that venue, arena, and host city.
Love Minneapolis. Big fan of Minneapolis. Venue seemed all right to me. It was fine. The problem is, for a Big Ten tournament, I know it's closer to some schools than others, but the attendance wasn't great, and Indianapolis and Chicago are better. It should rotate mostly between those. New York worked once, and once in a while New York works. The problem with New York is because of the Big East tournament, you have to go a week earlier, so I don't think they'll ever do that again. DC didn't work. I don't think attendance-wise it makes a ton of sense because there are a lot of people who don't go because it's not drivable.
JD, do you think Sean's recent interview with this show influenced him to ask Izzo the suit question?
So this was weird yesterday.
I was trying to find the audio.
I think Harns might have had it.
Forget it.
Yeah, but
It's gone forever.
Because Sean is not. So it's a weird deal. People were on Twitter asking a number of us to ask Izzo if he would ever wear a suit again, and the consensus was we would probably ask this at the end of the season, like a end of season round table. Good time to ask that question. Sean gets on Twitter like once every 24 months. And so he doesn't have any clue that that's ever been a question. But he knew somehow, and I forget where, that there had been an inkling of this is something the fan base wanted. And the thing is, it actually, like while it bewildered Izzo, it was actually meant to lighten the mood. It was not, the way it was phrased in Sean's relationship with Izzo, it worked more than it came off. Like a lot of people are like, why would you ask that question then? Like Sean knows Tom and knows him well. And they now Tom, if you ever want evidence that Tom Izzo's not on Twitter for sure, that he was so caught off guard that was even a thing, tells you that. But Sean asked the question, and Izzo is not planning to come back with a suit. That was what was made.
Was that really the first question?
No, it was the last question.
Oh,
it was the very end. It was the very end. Yeah.
JD next. Will there be anything more satisfying than watching Purdue lose in the first weekend again after not getting coddled by the refs?
Well, I'll tell you what's more satisfying. A groovy donut, right?
Oh, yeah.
And some great groovy donuts on St. Patty's Day weekend, which Groovy Donuts open Sunday morning, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m., or next week, again, Thursday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. But Irish cream, Shamrock donuts, they even have vegan St. Patrick's Day donuts available. And obviously, you can go on groovydonuts.com to place a pre-order. But a great way to have a companion with March Madness. Get some groovy donuts, get some pure options, and get yourself settled in for the long haul. Or in Michigan State's case, maybe a really short haul. Although there are a number of things going. The women's basketball team will be playing MSU hockey. So even if the MSU men are done quickly, there's a lot going on with MSU athletics, and Groovy Donuts is here to help take you through that. To the question really at hand, though, do you think most people hate Purdue? Like, I don't hate Purdue. I root for the Big Ten in the sense that, like, I'd like to see Purdue get to a Final Four. I'd like to see them win a national title. You don't want that.
Well, at least I can speak for myself. The Edey thing yesterday, and I'm sick of Purdue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
so I'm not rooting for them to do anything, unless my bracket or gambling. Sports Guy 1919. How would you distribute the center position minutes in the NCAA tourney?
I'd start with Cooper, and I'd ride Kohler a little more, and I'd play Booker mostly at the 4 or 5, depending on the matchup. But it'd be those three, and I thought they did the rotation pretty well in the Minnesota game. And then if there's foul trouble, or if and you give Mady Sissoko a couple minutes here and there, and he really responds, then you ride that. But that's it. Otherwise, he's out of the rotation.
Spartan 18770. Does this loss to Purdue make you feel better or worse about this MSU team going into the tournament?
It has to make you feel better, right? The way they played in that, the spirit and the spunk they had.
Yeah, but they're still not making shots. So they competed with a team that everybody thinks can win the Natty, but they can't hit those shots, and I just don't see. I hope I'm wrong. I just don't see it with his team. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's the guy who really needs to get going and works at it and has had some moments, but not enough, is Jaden Akins. And I think they thought he was going to take a step this year, and it hasn't. And Akins, feel like I talked to Akins in the locker room Friday. He was really down on himself. Like, he really just thought he said I didn't contribute in any meaningful way, and he just
well, he's honest.
Yeah, no, he's not an unrealistic bloke, So
Spart 18770. Does this or is the Michigan basketball head coaching job an attractive job or a stepping stone to better programs?
I mean, it's an attractive job. It's still Michigan basketball. I mean, it's not a top. I don't know. And it's interesting because in the 5 years ago, it was a top 20 job for sure.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
Now with the NIL landscape and the transfer portal and the need to be able to get transfers in and the need to be able to pay kids decent NIL money, I don't know if it's a top 40 job other than brand. I really don't. I mean, it's a top 40 job, but it 5 years ago it was a top 15 job, and now it's maybe a top 30 job.
But with the pressure, not like at other schools, right? Because of the football school and all that, and fans don't really care unless you're good, right? So you can kind of go under the radar until you can get a good team going, I think.
Right,
like
like
the Michigan gig.
John Beilein wasn't brought in to be great. He was brought in to run a clean program and be competitive.
Right.
And eventually he was great because he's a great coach, and he got it going, and they gave him time to do that. But so it can work there. It's just and I think they're aware of some of their shortcomings. Juwan Howard didn't get fired because he was just solid and not great enough. He got fired because the thing became a dumpster fire. And it was, I mean, you can't win 8 games. There's no excuse for that. And you should be an NCAA tournament team at Michigan almost every year.
Next one from Spartan. If you could write any article that you wanted, what would it be?
I don't know. It's a good question. Is there something you'd like to see from me?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, we want the Jeff Smoker
Jeff
deal,
Smoker story,
course,
yeah.
But he has to be willing to do that. The Max Bulla thing has already been solved by Jack, apparently, with no answer at all.
Yeah, if any story I could do would be
how college refs are ass.
Or
column.
It would be behind the scenes, my summer playing Moneyball basketball. That would be it.
And how we don't talk about how bad the refs are after the season. We just go, no, all right, when's the next season? Zach Hollenberger next. MSU has played 7 top 10 teams this year and in total have outscored them by 3. Are you telling me we have a chance?
Well, that Baylor game's carrying a lot of weight there.
Jesus, fucking Baylor game. That's all you hear about.
I'm telling you they have a chance at an upset on a given day because we've seen them be close enough that at some point it could happen. When you watch this team shoot game to game and you watch this team finish games game to game, I find it really unlikely that they put a run together. But what does a run ultimately look like? Could they get to a Sweet 16 and upset somebody in a second round? Absolutely. It feels like much more of a team that will be close. Like I can almost envision the end of the season. Now, they could lose in the first round too, but if they get to the second round, it's a game where they're within 3 to 5 points against a number 2 or 1 seed, much of the second half, and just don't have enough. We've just seen that, and that's who I envision them being. But on a given day, Tyson Walker puts up 30. It really, if Jaden Akins hits shots on a given day, they become very dangerous. They become a different team, and that happens right now. It seems about 1 out of every 3 games. So, 33% chance maybe.
Professor, did the game Friday say more about MSU's ceiling or Purdue's limitations?
MSU's ceiling. I mean, Purdue. I didn't think Purdue played poorly. It's a tough, and plus they had 2 fouls on, on their point guard, and Braden nearly went down with what looked like a serious knee injury. You talk about that was a nightmare for the Big Ten. That would have been the end of 1 seed showing up and playing there with their starters. But
it was just frustrating watching them play well like that and watching Sissoko. Like, where was this, guys? Like, you can put this together. I think they could go on a run. I just don't think they can hit shots.
Because if they were that team all year, people would like them. Because even if they had shortcomings, even if they missed shots to lose games, people aren't mad at Michigan State for missing shots to lose games. That can be frustrating. But people are mad that they don't see that effort and that intensity and that DNA in you. And
that AJ.
and that willing to yes, the last game and a half from A.J. Hogarth. Like,
right.
That's what people – and then the rebounding, again, to out-rebound Purdue and have 14 offensive rebounds. Like, if that's – and to have that sort of fast break, those sort of things that are effort and intent. Now, they've done some things, I think, to switch. Like, they've done some more different things with Tyson Walker, putting him at the top of the key so he doesn't get trapped, a little more point guard stuff with him. Trey Holloman has taken his game to another level. Obviously, Booker coming on, Kohler with the injury early. I mean, there's some things that have developed late, but there's also some just intensity and effort things that have shown up that if those existed all year, they would have won 3 or 4 more games, and people would have had a different vibe about this whole team.
Dave Lakin next. What do you get when you cross a know-it-all, hard-headed Hall of Fame coach with a unsophisticated flannel-wearing newspaper columnist and a Manscaped side nick? A basketball team that hasn't performed like a program for several years, but Graham and Jason are still great.
Appreciate you, Dave. Well played. Well played.
Sparty Ben and Coabit apparently with the same take here. How can the Big Ten look at the officiating in the MSU Purdue game along with all season and not see any issues with it? And from G.E. Miller, does the Big Ten really think it's to its own benefit in acting as a sixth man for Purdue when it will lead them to getting bounced early and embarrassing the league when they don't have that benefit in the tourney?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to officiate Zach Edey. In yesterday's game, the Zach Edey stuff, they miss here and there. It's tricky, but that's not my issue. And I do think that if I'm Purdue, if I were Matt Painter, I would want a really harsh whistle. Like, Purdue did not need the Big Ten tournament. They just don't need it. And I would have gone up to the officials and said, give us a really harsh whistle. Give us the worst case scenario so we can prep for the NCAA tournament. And if we lose, we lose. But we need to figure that out. The stuff that was really bad is just the stuff where the foot's on the back of the cylinder circle, so it should have been a block, not a charge. A couple of the charging calls weren't great, and that stuff changes games. And there are issues with college basketball officiating, but they're not going to make these guys full time, and I don't think they want to be full time. And until they are, there's just doesn't seem to be all that much accountability.
Who wouldn't want to be a full-time referee if you're getting paid like one, though?
Yeah, but most of these guys are like really bad police officers or superintendents at schools in the offseason. Like, I don't even know how you're a superintendent or a principal at a school and then like 4 hours away do a game 7 nights a week and do a decent job. It's just total bullshit.
So pay him. Chris Eastlick next. How do teams not just go after Edey and draw contact or flop like crazy when he drops the shoulder? Or do they have the integrity for the game, unlike Lance Jones flopping like a fish?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I would fall a lot more. Watching Wisconsin deal with him, I still think playing him straight up, making him shoot over you. If he hits a bunch, he hits a bunch. Still only worth 2 is the best way to go. And try to hold your ground, but not push back, because if you don't push back, if you just sort of hold your ground and he comes into you, I would fall like I had been shot. I would just fall so hard. I would hit my head so hard on the ground every time that it stopped the game.
Jesus. It's a little too much, man. You
maybe
in the flop a little bit.
Sorry, maybe the NCAA tournament when you really need to win.
You have to give yourself CTE. Miller, I've heard refs don't make much money, but when I've looked at for the numbers, they seem pretty high in the Big Ten. How much are Big Ten refs actually making, both per game and yearly? Should they get fined for bad calls?
I don't know what I haven't looked at this recently, so it's been a decade. And some guys are making like, I think, $1,200, $1,700 more than that. Quite a bit a game.
A game?
Yeah, they make good money. They make really good money. Yep.
So make them full time.
And find. I've always thought if there are more than 40 fouls in a game, that the game should be reviewed before those guys can work again. Not that there's. I mean, sometimes they're just really physical games. It's on the team, but the game should be reviewed. And there are ways to make them more accountable. I mean, and we'll get into that here in a little bit in more of the Groovy Donut Twitter questions, because there are some good suggestions coming up.
Ghost of George Perlis next. If Izzo retires, why not Scott Skiles?
I'll reverse this. Why Scott Skiles?
Yeah.
Like, what has he done that makes you think he would be the right choice? And especially now a guy is like 60, starting as a college basketball coach.
Yeah.
I think there was a point in time where he would have loved that. And Izzo kind of beat him to the punch.
G.E. Miller, Sean Windsor, the media hero we need or the one we deserve?
I'm a big fan of Windsor. And the funny thing about Windsor is, after he asked that question about Tom Izzo and the suits and all that stuff, he was, and Kyle put it out there, and so Windsor's taking abuse on Twitter. He was pretty sensitive to it. He's like, Kyle, he played it too straight. Like, people don't realize how casual that was brought up in the conversation. Sean's a good dude. Enjoyed hanging out with him this weekend.
David Jackson, am I wrong for thinking that was a 10 seed? MSU is likely just as good and may even be favored over the 7 seed opponent. Isn't that our best path since after all, merely reaching the round of 32 is no goal at all? But beat a 7, MSU would be a legit threat versus a 2 seed.
Yeah, being a 10 seed is better than being an 8 or 9, I think, given who some of the matchups would be. Yeah, there's no question about it, which is kind of weird. It's almost like, you're punished for being a little bit better. And I think, frankly, MSU shouldn't be allowed to be an 8 or 9 seed. I think they're too good. If they underachieve, that's not the fault of the 1 seed. The 1 seed shouldn't have to face a team that the 8 and 9 seed should be plucky teams that maximize who they are, who have very little shot to beat the 1 seed. The 8 and 9 teams should be that. You shouldn't get a path to if you play all year to become a 1 seed, you should not have to deal with Michigan State just because they couldn't get their shit together till late.
David Jackson, if we had to lose to Purdue, does doing so in a screw job make MSU more determined and likely to practice better this week than we do if the game had been ho-hum 20-point loss?
I mean, this is the NCAA tournament. These guys are going to play hard. I mean, you see it in the Big Ten tournament. They wanted this. They want this now. They understand. I mean, these guys care. They really do.
But it did help playing against a team like that and playing well. You just know you missed shots.
Yeah.
You could have beat them.
Yeah, and these guys know. I mean, they've been part of this. Most of these guys were part of the run they made last year. They know what they're capable
of. Seth, 71-71. Do you think Izzo really gave Dan Dockich tickets behind MSU bench versus Indiana? Dockich said he did. If so, that's a fireable offense.
Izzo, look, there are lots of strange bedfellows. There are lots of people that Izzo's probably friends with that you don't love. You see, every once in a while, a lot of people aren't big fans of John Engler around MSU anymore or whatnot.
And Izzo does forgive, excuse me, not forget, but
yeah,
right, like with the Dockich thing, he probably gave him chewed his ass, and then
and he's probably not. He's not going to say no to that.
I think I would though.
Well, I would.
Fuck Dan Dockich.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, come on. Out of all the guys, Johnny Spirit, Spartan Frank next. Is the NFC North going to have its best season in a decade? The Lions are still loaded. Packers are going to be very good still. And my Bears, provided they go against their DNA to always do the wrong thing, will have Caleb Williams, a top 5 receiver duo, and a top 10 defense.
I don't know about it. I don't know what the Vikings are going to be. Like, who are they going to get? They're making some moves to have extra picks.
Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, I do think
More foundation, man. Grit.
I do think the Packers have a chance to be really good for a while, and that Packers-Lions rivalry could get good, and we'll see what happens with the Bears. The Vikings, though, I think might be on their way. You got to have the quarterback, and they don't have it. So we'll see what they do there. I still think they have a move in them, right? I mean, I don't know.
You need to.
Yeah.
Right. John, being a Detroit columnist can be a tough job. Writing why Michigan is always correct sometimes requires real creativity. Which of these sample topics should aspiring student columnists practice writing to prepare them for the job? Number 1, keeping $40,000 cash in your Jeep as a sound financial strategy.
Definitely.
2, the stunning lakes and mountains in West Lansing. 3, Wojo, should Juwan Howard get a chance to fix Michigan's program? It's complicated. And 4, Wojo, Juwan Howard has been fired by Michigan, had to move swiftly and did. Was this an email?
No. Well, it was multiple. But I had dinner with Wojo last night, and great dinner.
Not a lot of talking, I'm guessing.
That's me.
Oh, well, I mean, you guys were eating.
It's
all right.
Yeah. No. It is interesting to watch how the sausage is made. I see it all the time. But like yesterday, Juwan Howard gets fired. Both Windsor and Bob had to immediately write about that instead of the MSU game they were covering. Like, that's just part of the gig. And
Welcome to the blue wall.
Yeah, I'm not going to defend. You know what I feel. Blue curtain. I've stated my.
So are you joining their side now?
I didn't say that.
Oh. Spawn of Stout sponsors next. This reporter bets between losing 10 pounds of pubes thanks to Manscaped and his slimming muskox that my good friend Graham is pretty happy, but not as happy as getting out of chaperoning a #hot lat summer. But folks want to know who goes further, MSU hockey or hoops?
It's a good question. I mean, obviously hockey's had the better year. It's such a, and their postseason starts later, and it's a shorter postseason. There's only 16 teams. But I'm going to say hockey. They've just been a better team, more consistent team, and they're a team that tends to finish and respond better. I mean, you can't look at the body of work of hoops and hockey and say that it would be hoops.
Spawn of stout sponsors. Folks, we need to know the truth from Graham. What's a worse toxic brew, following Wojo in the bathroom after a 3-wet burrito dinner from Taco Bell, or Fred Human after judging a chili cook-off? We already know what Ebling's tapioca squirts are like.
Holy crap.
Descriptive.
Yeah, no comment. Yeah.
I think Human takes that down, though.
Do you?
Oh,
Yeah. Human after a chili cook-off? Yeah.
Oh, God. J.A.K. Wang next. How do you feel about the lack of offense of the MSU team moving forward? Our young guys can't shoot, making them easy to ignore and double the guys who can shoot. You can't stay elite if the players aren't well-rounded.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Trey Holloman's shown he's a pretty decent shooter, and he's coming to his own. And now the way he stood up to Zach Edey is going to be a beloved figure for all time. And then what happens with Aikens, we'll see. I mean, he's a shooter, and he's got to be a shooter. They're bringing in Jace Richardson and Kurt Tang, and obviously Garrick Norman, I think, will be an important part of things as long as he sticks around. He is a shooter, and he's redshirted this year, so you almost forget he's like a bonus freshman next year.
Richard Kane next. How would you rank 23 and 24 job performance by Big Ten coaches? Where does Izzo rank? How many Spartan players improved over last year?
It's hard to do, and I saw the list you had. I mean, here's the thing. I watch every Michigan State game, and you don't see a lot. I don't see the other teams as closely, so I see Izzo's flaws. I see his strengths. My analysis of him is just much more seeped in knowledge than it is of anybody else. I mean, I obviously don't think he had the best year or got the most out of this team. This is one of two teams I've covered since covering them where I think there are times I could have done a better job. There are two teams that the 2017-18 team and this team, there are times where I just disagreed with the personnel decisions.
Don't coach my team.
And that wasn't even one of those years. That was the year before. So it's, I don't know where Izzo would rank. I think I like what Doug Collins has done with that Northwestern team. Obviously, I think Purdue did a nice job of sort of solidifying who they were after last year. So there are a number of, stories and coaching jobs that I think Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska, really good job. So I would say those three stand out, and then Juwan Howard's at the bottom, and everybody else is somewhere in the middle.
MZA next. Would MSU have won that game if they had stopped bricking open shots?
Probably, yeah. I mean, they were just a couple shots away. In fact, if Xavier Booker hits that 3 to tie it, who knows what happens.
MZA over under 5.5 days before referee Courtney Green can swallow again after that performance on Edey. Fuck Purdue.
I'm not a huge Courtney Green fan. I didn't think he was very good, and it wasn't just the Edey stuff. I think he made a couple other calls that I thought were rough.
How do we know his name? This is crazy.
Because he's been a ref for a long time.
We should know who we are. Jarrett next. Which conference has a team go the farthest in the NCAA men's tourney? Big Ten, Atlantic 10, Mountain West, or the NEC?
I really like Purdue. So outside of UConn, I think Purdue is the best team in college basketball. And so out of those options, I'm going to say the Big Ten.
Paulie Show, what is the solution to offensive player haphazardly bulldozes his way into the lane and draws a foul on well-positioned defender? I don't recognize the game I love.
Yeah.
He's right.
It's
it sucks.
There are things that
the NBA blows.
I think
college basketball's going that way.
There should be things that are able to be reviewed quickly, and maybe not by the refs there. It'd be nice if there was like a crew back in some studio somewhere that could quickly look at something and say that's wrong through an earpiece, and you fix it.
Ken Chu, why isn't the heel on the circle under the basket call reviewable?
I thought it was. I was confused yesterday that they couldn't look at that because I thought that was one of those things that they always could, and that's, but
they
apparently
didn't want to,
in the final 2 minutes. I don't know. It's a good question. It should have been asked, and maybe it was, but that actually got missed.
Travis Maynard next. It's a baby step toward fixing the foul problem in college basketball, but how about this? An offensive foul becomes just a violation. much like a 3-second call, resulting in a change of possession. Flagrant acts would still count against your total, as would loose ball fouls, but offensive fouls would no longer count. Thoughts?
I don't hate this. I don't hate the idea of anyways, you're not going to make the foul count too punitive. And to me, you go to 6 fouls and you don't need to do this, or you have one guy who can go to 6 a game. Or the other thing I would love to see happen is at halftime, you had fouls that were of question reviewed, and it doesn't change the free throws. It doesn't change the game state, but it can change the number of fouls on somebody. So if you're a guy, there was a bullshit foul on you, or a couple of them, and you're going to go to halftime, and you think you have 3, you may come out of the locker room with 1, and that changes how you play the second half.
Next one from Travis. If guessing right meant you could eat Groovy Donuts calorie-free for the rest of your life, and guessing wrong meant you could never have another donut, would you guess that there is a Big Ten agenda to get Purdue as high a seed as possible, and that it has affected officiating?
No, because I don't believe there is, and I want to eat Groovy Donuts for the rest of my life. And
you think there's people in charge that are that smart to put everything together to get them a high seed?
They're not doing. There isn't the agenda. They may suck at calling Purdue games. Purdue may get some favorable calls based on reputation and other things, and that does happen. Teams that don't foul don't get fouls called on them. And if you watch Purdue play, they give up some stuff because they don't foul. You watch Edey play. Edey does not foul. Edey knows he needs to be in the game. It's smart. Like Tyson Walker yesterday. We can talk about some of the calls that were bullshit on him, but he had 2 fouls he committed that were legit fouls that are completely needless. And he's got to be smarter than that. And Edey wouldn't commit those fouls. And so I don't think there's this vast conspiracy. And,
So should you attack Edey then? If he's not going to D up.
Yeah, I would attack Edey all the time. I would, 100%. But I do not think there's a conspiracy. And if Groovy Donuts were calorie-free, I might eat 50 a day if Groovy Donuts were calorie-free. And you can eat less than 50, but enjoy a box at groovydonuts.com or by swinging by either location. That's at Williamston and Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing. And they're open 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thursday through Sunday. They also do special orders. So if you want like a March Madness grouping of Michigan State donuts, or you want everybody in your bracket, or you want the teams you picked in your Final Four, they will do that for you at Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. You can put in a request. Monica and Andrew would be happy to do it.
C-Dubs91, you mentioned reviewing fouls at half. How would that work for a free throw situation like the Walker charge before the half, or even in the second half?
It wouldn't do you any good in the second half, but what would happen at halftime is the foul against Walker. It wouldn't change the game state of the free throws or anything like that, which still matter. But Walker would have come back out to the court with 2 fouls instead of 3.
C-Dubs91, not knowing matchups yet, what teams do you both think are most likely to make the Final Four?
I mean, everybody knows the main one. I do love UConn and Purdue. Houston, I just haven't seen enough of. Everybody seems to love them. Arizona is a team that I've liked all year. I know they blew a game to Oregon the other night. So give me Arizona. And then somebody will come out of nowhere. There'll be a 4th team. I don't know who it'll be.
Tennessee? You like Tennessee?
But they're not really out of nowhere. They're like a top 5 team, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, if you just, I do like Tennessee quite a bit. Yeah, for sure.
Mean Joel Green. What are the most blown charge calls you've seen in a game between 3 and 5 easy in the MSU Purdue game? Are you going to gift Matt Painter a Manscaped so the refs have a better view from their knees?
So
he's going to have shaven balls.
Yeah.
Matt Painter.
Yeah. Most blown. I've seen a lot of bad officiated games. I covered the MAC for a long time when I lived in Kalamazoo. You want to talk about, I mean, the frustration you guys go through, a Wednesday night in the MAC. The MAC changed their entire schedule at one point so they wouldn't have to have Wednesday night games. Because what happens is, at one point, the Big Ten played most of its games on like Wednesdays and Saturdays or whatever it was. And they share a lot of officials in the Midwest and their officials on a Wednesday night, if the Big Ten was all playing, were like just bottom of the barrel in D1, and you could see it. And so they wanted Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday because there were fewer games, and that allowed them to get more Big Ten and better officials. I'm telling you right now, I've seen some teams completely destroyed by bad officiating in the MAC, much more in the Big Ten. So it happens all the time.
Mojo Jojo, Graham, any tips for Columbus, Ohio? What do you think of it as a capital in a college town? Best man at my wedding just moved there.
Big fan of the of Columbus. Underrated, I think. I like downtown Columbus more than the campus area. DM me because there's a whiskey bar I would recommend that we spent a lot of time at during the NCAA tournament last year. There's a couple places downtown that are good. It's a good town, good food town, decent vibes. Big fan of Columbus.
Mojo Jojo, what made the 2010-2011 MSU team so dysfunctional? Was a sophomore at the time, and remember hearing about the drama between Darrell Summers and Chris Allen, and seeing Corey Lucius walk in slowly to my seminar with all eyes on him after getting kicked off the team.
Yeah, I didn't cover that team. It was the last team I didn't cover, and so I only hear the stories. And I know there was some dissension between the young players and the veterans. The veterans, I think, have been around a long time, might have been sick of each other. There was some stuffing between them, some personal things, I think. Chris Allen more so. Corey Lucius was. I don't have firm reporting on everything that happened, but I think Chris Allen was more of an issue of like character than Corey Lucius. I'll just leave it at that.
Alex James, where does Edie rank for you among recent MSU hoop nemesis? Here are my top 5. 5, Evan Turner. 4, Zach Edey. 3, Boo Buie. 2, D Brown. And 1, Devin Harris.
Those are good. And it speaks to an era. Devin Harris is a great one. Wisconsin of that era. I don't know. Of present day, Zach Edey or Boo Buie, greater nemesis to you?
Oh, it's Boo Buie.
Yeah.
Because those Purdue teams are good. They surround Edey with good talent. It's just Boo Buie and 4 honkies that Graham thinks he could score on. So
I agree.
De Uper next. Forget about any Izzo March magic of the past. Just based on what you've seen this season, do you honestly believe this team will be able to string together enough consistent high-level play to make a tourney run?
No. I mean, I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Would it surprise me?
Right. I mean, they're a more capable team than a lot of 14-loss teams, and that's the challenge with them. And we've also seen a lot of these players be a part of a team that was pretty close last year to doing something well, So, but yeah, there's just at this point who they are and finishing games and consistency. I find it really hard to believe them. I just find it hard to believe they'll make it. We ought to do something with pure options where if Michigan State doesn't make it, there's some sort of deal, like just to help people get through it. If Michigan State loses in the first round, it's like, I don't know, whatever the deal is. Second round, different deal. Third round, we need to. Sorry, I'm producing non-air again. Started thinking about deals, but I would recommend stocking up. By the way, you are going to love the vibe at Pure Options. You're going to love the customer service. There are several places throughout the state, including Lansing, Mount Pleasant, west side of the state, Detroit. A number of places. Go to pureoptions.com. Check out the locations nearest you. Good people. Their owner is from East Lansing originally, and you're gonna like these folks. And again, if you spend $50 there and let them know that Couch of the Rube sent you, an eighth of ProGrow, a Pure Options brand, compliments of them.
De Uper, does Manscaped require the personal testimonials? Appreciate you both, but all the sponsors, but come on, man. I don't need that visual. Did Graham really need to say 12 pounds gone? Really?
They don't require anything, but they don't mind it, And I just have to speak
It's not
the
the
truth.
worst thing you've said.
Oh, surely not the
pounds.
worst thing. Yeah.
Jack Hakala. For years down the line, does MSU have what it takes to take Hurley from UConn? What is Purdue feeding these refs? Pure Options? Groovy Donuts? Ridiculous and unwatchable. See, but if the refs had both of those things, they would make better calls. I don't like weed getting the blame for ass behavior like the refs.
Right. Unless you're bribing
make
people,
you a better person.
Bribing people with donuts, that could get things get corrupt real quick. Yeah, I don't know what Hurley will want to do. I mean, he's got a pretty good thing going. Is it the easiest, best college town in the world stores? No, but he's got a good thing going. Is there a step up really from UConn if you've got a national title place? But those are the sort of guys you're going to have to call. And Michigan State will have made itself the level of program that you ought to be able to at least have a conversation with big-time coaches, sitting head coaches at other schools.
Shep, next. I noticed that the promo code for your new sponsor, Manscaped, is Rube. How did you decide on which of your names you wanted most associated with an exceptionally hairy coin purse?
Yeah, I just figured it'd be better to have Jason than me, so I just went with that.
Yeah, I usually take the bullet for that stuff. It's
yeah,
fine.
that's really how it goes.
Yeah, not offended. NPC softball dad, how did you not read my take comparing the Yeshiva versus York College softball game to a Serbian film? I rarely rise above my NPC status. I should be celebrated when bringing the good stuff. Also, college refs are ass.
I think part of it was I was just so confused by it. I might have been in a rush, and sometimes when I'm in a rush and I'm confused, I just skip something. That's, speaks to most of my
Sorry, I was confused.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Mr. Benjen, what's the opposite of matchup proof? That's what these Spartans are. Have a big, we done. Have a great guard, a la Boo Boo Booey, we done. Have a good stretch four, we done.
Matchup dependent is what the Spartans are. There's no question they're matchup
Just need a team with a bunch of guards for them to play.
I think they're better off than they were at certain points this year the way they're playing inside, but they're definitely not matchup proof. And it's not just the bigs. I mean, they don't have great size on the wing either. I mean, they are matchup dependent.
Stephen Wilco next. Why do Lansing folks favor Tottenham? Is it the big enough to accomplish something but haven't accomplished much factor? Anyway, up the Fulham.
Yeah, I don't know why Tottenham's such a popular, out of London team to love. I think it's because people don't want to be like a Man City fan. They don't want to be an Arsenal fan because it's, I don't know why it is. It drives me nuts. And it's become, and now I don't even like Tottenham for no reason because of that. Well, I mean, I had a reason dating back to 2014 when I was on a fan bus with a bunch of people chanting for a preseason game that I didn't believe were real fans. But another story not quite worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company, which, by the way, is going to we're going to do some fun stuff starting next week with them. They are going to be the sponsors of our Couch in the Rube NCAA tournament March Madness brackets. Yeah, so that's the answer.
Bo McJunkins, if you were a server and Kim Mulkey came to your table, would you just quit? Does Kim Mulkey look like a hemorrhoid in a children's movie about the human body? Oh, shit, that was good. Does Kim Mulkey look like a woman who celebrates her divorce?
I definitely would be scared to be married to her. I mean, there's no doubt. Kim Mulkey's obviously.
Did she not have that look before you got married to her? I feel like she's always had that look.
Great coach, intimidating as hell. I'm scared just watching Kim Mulkey press conference.
Looks like a hemorrhoid in a children's movie about the human body. That's Bo McJunkins, you're the best. Hans Jurgen. Isn't the real problem with MSU is that they are a bunch of bricklayers?
Hans had some other questions too. Some of them weren't appropriate, some were duplicates. And one asked us to do a lot of stuff that I couldn't. I play a song that it was getting late in the day and I couldn't send it to Jason. Apologies. Send that next week, Hans, and I'll work on getting that to Jason. You're right though here. I mean, MSU, if they were a really good shooting team, if they had Joey Hauser, or they had if Jaden Akins had been the 40-some% three-point shooter consistently that he was toward the end of last season, they'd be a different team, and they would have won several more games.
Upper Deck Jerk Guy, who is the best character in a comedy?
Best character, period, huh? Who's your favorite character in any comedy of all time?
Oh, my God.
It's a lot to ask.
I don't know.
Bob Wiley?
I don't even know who that is.
And what about Bob?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's up there, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Upper Deck Jerk Guy, what are the odds that Michigan State has a team in the Final Four and Frozen Four, and would you place that bet?
The odds would have to be really good to sprinkle a little bit on that, because the problem is I'm one of those people, once you bring up the idea of a bet,
but this one seems a little far-fetched still.
Right, I'm not sure
You're not going to sprinkle still.
When Firekeepers would put this one out there as a prop bet, but if it did exist though, and you didn't do it at long odds, and then it happened, you would resent yourself. It's sort of like that Super Bowl bet that I talk about all the time, with the idea that no touchdown to be scored in the Super Bowl, And the one time that I didn't do it and I thought about it, the Patriots and Rams didn't have a touchdown deep into the fourth quarter, and I was like, holy shit, and this would have been a lot of money, and I didn't bet it. Like, just peace of mind, that becomes a bet you have to make.
Jerk guy, are either of you Gravioliant?
Oh, fuck. Hold on.
Gravioliant.
Let me
I am the passenger.
Absolutely. I mean, fucking everybody masturbates. I think it's a family of climbers and a few herbs in which the flowers are. I don't know where to go with that, but if it's a pure options play off of, we appreciate you, Predictor.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'm that. Jerk guy, corned beef and cabbage, yay or nay?
Yay.
Oh, my God.
I love corned beef and cabbage. You don't like corned beef and cabbage?
It sounds disgusting. I've seen it. It
Wonderful.
looks disgusting. It smells like ass. I'm out.
Wonderful.
Finally, jerk guy, who will replace Juwan Howard? Will it be Jalen Rose?
That would be funny if they just started working through the Fab Five. I have no idea. I don't know where they'll go with this. I feel bad for Sadie Washington. Hope he lands somewhere and stays on if he wants to. Big fan of him. Lansing Sexton guy. Did a great job at Oakland. I think did a good job at Michigan for a lot of years, too, under Beeline and then Juwan Howard. We appreciate all of you and getting in your Twitter questions. Produce our show for us. We appreciate Groovy Donuts. Go to groovydonuts.com. Place your order today or swing by either location, Lake Lansing Road in East Lansing or in Williamston. Thanks, of course, to Firekeepers, the Firekeepers Casino and Sportsbook app. Download the app today. Be prepared to bet the NCAA tournament. Thanks to Midtown Brewing Company. And, of course, thanks to our friends at Pure Options Precision Crafted Cannabis. We'll be back Monday after the selection show on Sunday night. We'll talk about it all. We'll do some hot takes. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Rube.